Hello to everyone who may or may not be here. Welcome back to the stream where we play non-violent games, games that reward the player for intellectual and or emotional engagement, rather than for combat or any other kind of violent gameplay loops. Sorry I'm a little late. I was sending a message to someone, and I felt like it was important to finish that off before I came on. So, let's get started. Oh, yes, yes, at last. Divine justice duly done! Divine justice? My dear fellow, if there were any divine justice in this world, you would shave that moustache. No, this has nothing to do with my moustache! Some say that a luxuriant moustache is a sign of physical prowess, Mr. Sholmes. Look, Mr. Hunter Esquire! Once again, you saved me from doom! I'm very happy to have been able to help, Mr. Natsume. Congratulations on your acquittal. You're second in almost as many days. I was fast acquainted with and gained affection for English literature whilst in the great Homeland Empire. And then, by a twist of fate, I was brought to the land that bore the fruit of that literature. Only, the city of bricks and mortar became my prison. Try as I might, I never found my feet here. In the end, I confined myself to my room, and lived life through friendly old books. You've had such a difficult time, haven't you? But a week ago now, I dragged you out of that dark and dingy room of yours, did I not? You did. And I've seen more of life in this week than in all my years to date. And for the first time, I feel I've begun to see the true face of the English that's so far been hiding from me. I feel I've begun to see the true face of the English that's so far been hiding behind the wall of fog, or whatever it was that anyway, my dear fellow, there's nothing special about the true face of the English, as you put it. Wheresoever one goes in the world, humans are human. There are few genuine differences. Yes, I think you're right. I've finally started to see that, and I've come to understand something. I worked out why I was attracted to English literature in the first place. It made me see that whatever our nationality, we humans all have the same hopes and fears. We're all just doing our best to live. Well said. I've come to feel the same way. I've made a decision too. I'm going to cut short my study tour here and return to Japan. What? Just when we'd become friends here in England. What a terrible shame. Oh, I know. That does tug at my heartstrings, it really does. But I've decided I'd like to take everything I've learnt here in Britain and write something of my own. A novel of sorts, I suppose. Oh my. So you'll be creating your own literature, Mr. Natsume. How wonderful. Oh, well, no. I mean, I wouldn't presume to call it literature. Why not? When that is precisely the definition, Mr. Moustache. I suppose you're right, yes. It will, in a way, be literature. But as of now, all I know is that I'd like to try my hand at writing. I have no delusions of grandeur. I, for one, would love to read your work. Well, all things considered, it may be for the best. After all, you have once again emerged victorious from a battle with the Reaper. Ah, that's very true. And there is no salvation for a person in the dock when the Reaper is the prosecutor. Cesaro! The desire to return post-haste to the perceived safety of your homeland is one I quite understand. My goodness, yes! Faced with such a terrifying prospect. Nobody would consider that cowardly, I am quite sure. But that's not why I'm leaving, I mean it! And that was the case that we found ourselves embroiled in 6 months ago now. Saseki-san did indeed return to Japan and submitted a report about both cases to the government. It was on reading that report that Professor Migatoba was prompted to visit the scholar. And barely any time later, Susato-san was given the news that she must return to Japan as well. On the back of a telegram stating falsely that her father had fallen gravely ill. The only possible explanation that comes to mind is what happened after the trial on the following day. The day that we uncovered the loot hidden by the now deceased convict in his former lodgings. "24th of February, 10:13 a.m., Mr. Natsume's room.
How well done, Mr. Sholmes! How simply marvelous of you! To uncover the secret hiding place in just one day.
Wasn't it supposed to take 30 minutes?
As I believe I told you, my dear fellows, skin prints are extremely useful in such situations. Wouldn't you agree, Gregson? Gregsy's been happily munching an agreement this whole time, you know, Hurley. Gregsy's been happily munching an agreement this whole time, you know, Hurley. Happily? I think perhaps humorously might be close to the truth.
So, it transpires that the man fashioned a hiding place in the ceiling. And what's in it? What exactly is the loot?
Let us look then, if you're ready.
Let's examine the late burglar's hall. What is that?
It looks to be some sort of neckband or collar.
A collar? It's huge, though.
And look at all the gemstones in it. I can see why it was claimed to be worth £1,000. Perhaps I could have it as a belt. Oh, have you noticed on the inside there are some dark stains?
You don't think they could be blood, do you? I mean, there's quite a lot of it.
On second thoughts, perhaps I won't have it as a belt. Then, of course, there's this emblem here. A large letter B and a small crown.
What does it signify, do you think?
Oh, I hadn't noticed that. I feel as though I've seen that emblem somewhere before, you know. Where could it have been?
That's enough of that, I think. What? What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes? All the color is drained from his face. Well, Inspector, I believe you ought to be taking this, oughtn't you? It could be valuable evidence, after all. It must be kept safely under lock and key. Yes. Get your grubby hands off that, you lot, and hand it over now. I'd never seen a collar that large before, and all those jewels certainly looked to be extremely valuable. But that's not what stood out the most to me, at least not once I'd noticed it. Those dark marks on the inside of the collar, those stains, could they really have been blood?
Well, that was a funny case, wasn't it? But it's all buttoned up now.
And you look very pleased, Iris.
I am, because I was starting to wonder what I could use as the basis of this month's story in the magazine. But this case will be perfect. It's been so fascinating.
You're talking about the latest installment of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I presume.
The mystery of the knife in the mist, and the mustached man and the convict's curse, perhaps. I could make it a two-part story. Oh, I can't wait.
A word, please, Iris.
Yes? What is it, Hurley?
I'm sorry, but you can't write about this case. It's out of the question.
What? Why not? It's a great case.
Then I shall have to insist that you limit yourself to the first of your two titles. The second must never be written. Is that clear?
Yes.
was that the second of Soseki-san's cases became buried in obscurity. Now, looking back, I feel I understand. I can see why Mr. Sholmes forbade Iris from publishing the story. It would take a little longer before I saw the link between everything that had happened and would happen, for it wasn't until 2 months after the arrival of Susato-san's letter that events began to unfurl again, with an incident that took place at the very heart of the eagerly awaited Great Exhibition of London.
Alright, now, on to the next case.
The grand end of the century Great Exhibition of London. Surely there is not a soul who is guilty of it. Wondrous new works of culture and industry from every corner of the globe had converged on Hyde Park, welcoming over 50 million visitors. The last great hurrah of the century. Astonished and delighted people of all nations had ended on a note of resounding success. But as regards to the terrible catastrophe that occurred during the festivities, very few were aware my friend Mr. Herlock Sholmes had a hand in unraveling the matter. For from the shadows, it was he who earnestly unearthed the facts of the case. And like the centerpiece of the Great Exhibition, which rose high into the skies of Hyde Park, Sholmes's brilliant deductions, as clear and lofty as the Crystal Tower itself, brought the truth to light. We're here at the showground of the Great Exhibition, which is absolutely packed with people. The weather is unusually fine, and we're about to witness a most extraordinary scientific experiment. Ladies and gentlemen, the 20th century will see steam engines and electrical power dominate the world. Horse-drawn carts will give way to the motor car. Ships will sprout wings and take to the skies.
Well, one of those is correct.
And today, we showcase even more advanced technology, a glimpse into the future. A world first, a demonstration of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine. A man will literally be disassembled by a pulse of high voltage electricity and beams to another location. Whereupon his body will be reassembled by a series of complex calculations exactly as it was before. In but a few moments from now, this gentleman will, in the blink of an eye, compute an incredible journey through the air.
Hold on, since I'm gonna have to eventually voice this guy, let's see what I can do about recording something that sounds like him. This gentleman will, in the blink of an eye, complete an incredible journey through the air. To arrive an instant later on the crystal tower behind you. We'll see if those help. Oh, he's a little too excited about this. Like I said, a little too excited. October 22nd, 9:36 a.m. Sholmes' suite.
Reno, are you listening?
Oh, sorry. What was that, Iris?
What's the matter with you? You've been miles away all morning. Didn't you like what I cooked for breakfast?
No, that's not it at all. What were we talking about again?
Today's paper. It's full of news about the Great Exhibition again.
Ah, yes, the Great Exhibition. I'd like to go sometime.
You're really not your usual self today. You seem very down. Don't you agree, Hurley?
Did you say something, Iris?
Oh gosh, you're even more down.
When did you arrive, Mr. Otto? I've been here for about half an hour already. We had breakfast together. What? Why did you mention it before? I thought you might have known I was here. You know, because... breakfast. Iris is quite right. You're clearly lacking in vim. So much so that I didn't even notice your presence. Thanks. Of course, I could deduce the reason perfectly well with some simple observations. What? Let's see. Yes, for example, your tousled hair this morning with all its unruly spikes. Clearly, it can be deduced, therefore, that... let me stop you there, Mr. Sholmes, because I think I can see where this is going. My hair always looks like this. It always has, ever since we first met, in fact. Oh, really? How interesting. It just doesn't look like a haircut as such, I suppose. Thanks again. It crossed my mind recently that it's been 6 months now.
6 months?
Since I was forbidden from working in court. So I've been wondering how much longer I'm going to be banned.
Oh, well that would explain why you seem rather glum. Don't you agree, Hurley?
Did you say something, Iris? Back to moping. What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes today? He seems even more down in the dumps than me.
I know, and the Great Exhibition is opened. You'd think he'd be excited. Oh, why don't we all go see it together?
I want to, of course I do, but I can't. Not for the time being. Why not? Why not? Why not? Because I'm a great detective after all. So you're embroiled in some tricky case that you can't be distracted from? Is that it?
I don't remember hearing that you're working on a case, Hurley.
I suppose I should try to find out what's going on. Half a year ago now, I took on the defense of a young girl in a trial heard at the Old Bailey. What at first seemed like a simple case of murder that took place at a London pawnbrokery turned out to be one part of a much more far-reaching plot that involved the British government. During the course of the trial, it was found that I made an unavoidable, yet at the same time unforgivable mistake. Words fail me. The situation is utterly deplorable. Mr. Donato! Yes, my lord. I will decide upon your fate following the conclusion of this trial. Of course, my lord. In the end, I had my right to represent people in court revoked. I was told I had to spend my time in research and studies, so that's what I've been doing.
You have, haven't you, Bruno? Reading all those big fat tomes about British law up in your room, and the notes about Sholmes' old cases.
Brewing Iris's special blends of tea, fetching my daily bread for me. You've become something of a manservant around here. Starting on Civil War next, Mr. Donato. Start on the Civil War next, Mr. Donato. Well, I'm thinking of going to ask the powers that be to reconsider. Specifically Lord Strongheart at the British Supreme Court on Whitehall.
Lord Strongheart?
Ah, the delightful Lord Chief Justice. Not my favourite fellow. He's not mine either, but he's the man I have to talk to. He's the only one who can grant permission for me to start working in the courts again. I came to Britain to become the best lawyer I could, and I can't do that just sitting around here. So I was right, that is the reason he can't practice anymore. The whole of London has been swept up in this great exhibition, hasn't it? The most advanced science, the most modern technology, and the finest works of art, the finest works of art and feats of engineering. For the next 6 months, our capital will be showcasing these things, and the world will be watching.
Oh, do you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to look down on London from one of those lovely balloons.
Look down on... Do you mean those things fly?
Yes, of course. They fly high in the sky and don't even need wings to do it. All you need is hot air.
But how? How does hot air have anything to do with flying? It makes no sense. I can't understand it at all.
That's true of a lot of new scientific discoveries. Most people can't understand them at first. But in 100 years' time, all these things will be just common knowledge.
I suppose they might be.
Mind you, some of the science being demonstrated seems very questionable. Something went wrong on the open experimentation stage yesterday, apparently. There was a huge explosion. Still, I wish I'd seen it, though. I'd love to see how bad some of these scan experiments really are.
Says the innocent 10-year-old girl. See ya. Every page of this paper carries some articles or other about the Great Exhibition. But the brighter things shine, the darker things the shadows that are cast behind them. Personally, I find myself drawn to the darkness, to the impenetrable. That is my proper atmosphere. The Great Exhibition newspaper has been entered into court record. The newspaper containing various articles about the world-leading science and technology on show at the Great Exhibition being held in London. Shadows cast behind. Is that a metaphorical way of referring to the back page of the paper? Every article on the front page is news about the Great Exhibition. Public experiments to demonstrate brand new scientific ideas, cultural exhibits from around the globe. It's also positive and hopeful about the coming century. We must all go to see it properly before too long. The Reaper attacked! So many glowing reports about the Great Exhibition and everything that's going on there. Other than this rather gloomy looking one, that is. Wait, what?
What's the matter, Reno?
The Reaper attacked? That's Lord Van Zeeks. This must be what Mr. Sherlock was talking about. Does he know any more, I wonder?
Oh, so you have scale balances in Japan too, do you?
Well, yes, but nothing like the Old Bailey's huge example.
The thing about those scales is, they're only ever in the balance right at the start of a trial, aren't they? Otherwise, they always seem to be hanging one way or another.
I noticed that exact same thing.
Ooh, is this Japanese kanji script embroidered here?
That's right. The name of the armband's owner.
Oh, so that's how you write Naruto, is it?
Actually, no. It's my best friend's name, not mine. It's pronounced Kazuma Asugi. I actually believe this armband in some way embodies his spirit, you see.
So you have to write all those lines just for one person's name? Kanji is funny, isn't it?
That's right. Never mind my feelings about my best friend. It's lines I really want to talk about. It says in the paper that Lord Van Zeeks was attacked. That's terrible. You know the legend of the Reaper at the Bailey, of course, don't you? Only too well, in fact. Yes, Prosecutor Barrack Van Zeeks. They say that if the Reaper is the prosecutor in a case, there's no salvation for whoever's in the dock. Even if the defendant is found not guilty. Once the Reaper has someone in his sights, one way or another, that person's time left on this earth will be short. London's finest rogues always find ways around the law, to stop at nothing to secure an acquittal at trial. Falsifying evidence, paying to sham witnesses, threatening jurors, bribing judges, but even such devious tactics as these cannot save them from the hands of the Reaper. As you've experienced yourself, haven't you, Miss Nada? Yes, I've seen the Reaper's retribution at work. Many of these criminal rogues are reckless and quite unafraid to die. If a leader among their fraternity is seen to have been taken by the Reaper, retaliation like this does occur. Really, the capital has a never-ending supply of such scoundrels. So, you mean Lord Van Zeeks has been attacked like this before? This isn't the first time? He's quite an accomplished combatant, Judah. He doesn't take these attacks lying down. Although, it seems that his assailants were armed with guns this time. Oh my goodness, is he alright then? Is Lord Van Zeeks hurt? My dear fellow, how on earth would I know?
Well, in the article here it says, as to what of Lord Van Zeeks and his condition, all will be revealed in tomorrow's morning edition.
Ah, I see. Well, we shall have to be patient then. No, I can't wait until tomorrow. In that case, you shall have to inquire with somebody in the know. But who? Lord Strongheart, perhaps? Are you investigating a particularly tricky case at the moment, Mr. Sholmes? You could say that, I suppose. Nothing more to add? That's not like you. What sort of case is it? Shh! Quiet, Miss Nardo. We must not discuss it here. You never know who might be listening.
You're acting very strangely, Hurley.
What do you mean, Iris?
Well, usually, the more mysterious and complicated a case is, the better Hurley's mood.
Ah!
Is it really a case that's bothering you?
Iris, please! You mustn't exercise your astute powers of observation and deduction on me without invitation. Remember what I always say. Put yourself in the shoes of the individual about whom you're making deductions. You say that, do ya? You, Mr. Sholmes. Never mind. Once I've had a cup of tea, I must make my way at once to the crime scene. That was a deep sigh. Well, I must be leaving now. Yes, understood. See you later, Mr. Sholmes. You really are shameless liar sometimes, my dear fellow. What? You seek to put me off my guard and follow me, don't you? Well, you would be wasting your time. The thought hadn't crossed my mind, but now I'm wondering where you're going. Well then, see you later, indeed. Listen to him. He's still laughing on his way out of the door.
Alright then, Runo, let's get going.
Oh, Iris, what are you wearing?
I've got change to go to the great exhibition. You're going to take me.
What? But I was just about to go to the Supreme Court.
Oh, well that sounds fun too. You're going to take me there. You're going to take me there then.
Alright, fine. Just lower that weapon, would you?
Of course. And after the Supreme Court, then we'll go see the great exhibition.
Every time I look at that machine, I can't help thinking what a monstrosity it is. What's it called again?
The Great Analytoscope. It can analyze absolutely anything, you know.
It does seem incredible, and at the same time, incredibly useless.
Ah, but it looks impressive, doesn't it? So that makes it very useful.
How does that make it useful?
Because it means you can pawn it for lots of money. The pawnbrokers always make idle remarks like, "What an incredible looking machine." Ha ha! So Hurley often takes it to the pawn shop when he's a little short.
Sounds like this thing pulls its weight around here more than I realized, by having its weight pulled around. That's pretty smart, actually. Books, papers, scientific implements. These shelves are stuffed to the gunnels. Miss Susada wouldn't be able to help herself if she was here. If she were here, she can't stand mess.
Susie might not be able to stand mess, but she wouldn't dare touch those shelves.
Oh, why not?
Everything's in intricate balance. Hurley spends ages on it. If you were to touch even one thing, the whole lot would come tumbling down. Susie noticed it was a very delicate arrangement right from the outset.
You make it sound like a meeting of great minds. But the truth is, Mr. Jones just needs to tidy up. Ah, yes, Mr. Sholmes' faithful musical companion. Wasn't his violin made by somebody famous?
Yes, it's a Stradivarius. I'm afraid you'd have to save up for 100 years before you could afford one, Runo.
If I were to save up for 100 years, I wouldn't choose to buy a violin, personally.
Oh? What would you buy then?
I really have no idea. I think I'll have to do it so I can find out. Ah, yes, the huge metal chest with the lace cloth laid on it, being used as a table for tea and coffee. It's very sturdy, that's for sure, and firmly locked shut.
That chest contains my father's detailed records of Hurley's many cases.
Yes, so I've been led to believe, though personally I've never actually seen inside.
And that's the way it will stay. Those papers are a secret between Daddy and me. If you go opening it uninvited, you might find yourself being bitten.
What, is there a beast inside there or something? I do love a good fire in the colder months. Watching the flames flickering and dancing about is just so very relaxing.
Cleaning out the chimney isn't so relaxing, though.
No, getting covered in soot isn't my idea of fun.
You know, Hurley decided he was going to clean it out himself last year. But you can guess what happened, can't you? He caught himself stuck in the flue. Inside the flue. He's a very slim man, I admit, but there are limits to where a fully grown man can fit. Now every time he dozes off by the fire, he has nightmares about it.
Oh, these different pieces of evidence from cases that Mr. Sholmes has solved are very interesting.
The trouble is, Hurley forgets things so quickly. He never remembers why these things are relevant. The other day, for example, he saw the orange pips that were there and decided to plant them in the garden.
Pips?
Yes, they've all sprouted now. We have 5 new little plants.
Oh, well, I don't know what case they were from, but if Mr. Sholmes can get oranges to grow outside in England, he should change his profession. Ah, yes, this is where you note down ideas, isn't it, Iris? What's in the melting pot today? The blue carbuncle.
Yes, it's from a case of theft that Hurley solved ages ago. The theft of a precious stone. A carbuncle is another name for garnet, you see, especially if it's cut with a rounded top.
Oh, really? And this garnet was blue. This garnet was blue, was it?
Well, that's the thing. They're usually red. No blue garnets have ever been discovered.
Oh.
So who knows what the stolen gemstone actually was? That's the real mystery of the case.
A proper Sherlock Holmes conundrum, huh? There's so many different bottles up there on that charming little set of white shelves.
Oh, do be careful, Bruno. You mustn't try the contents of any of those bottles even if you're hungry.
I wouldn't do something stupid like that. I'm not a child, you know.
Well, I wish I could say the same for Hurley. The other day he polished off a full bottle of one of my alkaloids.
He what?
He said he was hungry.
Oh, be extra careful.
I can type with my eyes shut, you know.
I can believe it. When a deadline's approaching, you sound like a Gatling gun.
That reminds me of a dream I had the other day. It was such a funny one. It woke me, actually. I was typing for a whole hour in the pitch black, but I didn't make a single mistake.
That's incredible.
But then, when it got light, I found that there wasn't any paper in the machine. Now I wonder if I'd actually been typing at all.
I think you might just have fallen asleep on the job. Alright, looks like that's everything. Let's head out. "22nd of October, British Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice's office. It's been about 6 months now since I was last here. Some things never change, like the sense of foreboding I always seem to feel in this place. Doesn't seem to be bothering Iris at all, though. She's happily reading over there.
Oh, I love this place. I always find so many interesting books here.
Of course, I was forgetting that you've been here before. Time we came here 6 months ago. When Susato-san was given the news that she was to return to Japan. Ah, I understand you wish to speak with me. Hold on. Here we go.
So, entering for our great...
Ah, I understand you wish to speak with me. Oh, Lord Strongheart. I trust you've been keeping well? Let's see. Since you arrived and requested an audience, it's been 4 hours, 32 minutes, and 26 seconds. I've kept you waiting a while. My apologies. Oh no, not at all. I like nothing more than standing around staring into space. Good to know. Good to know that doesn't appear to bother him at all. Male Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of London. He's the man who allowed me to start practicing as a defense lawyer when I arrived in Britain as a student. You need only savor the air for a moment in this grand office to understand his preeminent status. As you will be aware, the Great Exhibition of London is now underway at last. We're extremely busy as a result, policing the grounds, guarding the new technologies, dealing with petty crime. And furthermore, as of next month, we shall open the International Forensic Science Symposium. Oh, I've not heard about that. Investigating authorities from 40 countries around the globe will be taking part, including from your own land. Forensic science is the future. The world must embrace it. As we're the hosting nation, I have much to do, and it is my highest priority. If others must wait for my attention as a result, so be it. Well, it's nice to know where I stand. So, you wish to consult with me. Of course, I can very well imagine what this is about. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, my lord. I want to be allowed to start working as a defense lawyer again in court. That's what brought me here today. But actually, there's something else playing on my mind as it happens.
Rudo, just take a deep breath and come out with it. Oh, I've just had a great idea.
What is it?
We could hide inside these suits of armor and spy on the Fog Watchmaster to find out what he's really like.
I don't have much interest in what Lord Strongheart is really like, though.
Oh, please, it would be fun. You could be inside the left one, and I'll go inside the right.
You really want to have a go in a suit of armor, don't you?
Humph. No, you're making fun of me because I'm a child, aren't you?
I wasn't making fun of you at all. I'd like to have a go, too. Lord Chief Justice's desk. When you look at that, there's no mistaking Lord Strongheart's authority, is there?
But the light from that window behind is far too bright. It would be very bad for the eyes.
I hadn't thought of that. There are no curtains, that's for sure.
What's more important? Having a desk with an authority, or having eyes that work?
I can't say I'd ever considered it. After all, my little office barely has any light to speak of, and I haven't really seen my desk in a while. You couldn't read all these books if you couldn't read all these books even if you were reincarnated 3 times over as a bookworm.
Oh, I know. So much reading material. I'm very envious. I've really been running out of things to read recently.
That's because you read so fast.
Perhaps little by little I could swap some of the books in here with some of mine from home.
I don't see why not. No one would notice. Or at least I wouldn't, even if I was reincarnated 3 times over as a librarian. Okay. Looks like that's pretty much everything. Let's chat. All sorts of conferences have been taking place around the world to coincide with the Great Exhibition, and next month the largest and most important of them all will take place at last. The International Forensic Science Symposium. It does seem as though criminal investigation needs to embrace scientific methods, doesn't it? Exactly.
Huh?
London, the global epicenter of culture, science, and wealth, now has a population exceeding 6 million. Sadly, crime in the capital is growing at a similarly startling rate, so it's imperative that we use the latest scientific methods to investigate and resolve cases as efficiently as possible. Which is what's known as forensic science, isn't it? Exactly! The future of policing.
Huh?
Regrettably, however, Britain is currently dragging its feet when it comes to the adoption of forensic methods. Oh dear, that's alarming. Exactly! It's extremely alarming.
Huh?
If I were Her Majesty's Attorney General, you can be sure the numbers of crimes committed and resolved in London would be very different to the current figures. and I can cite 12 solid arguments and 223 individual reasons to support my claim. Sorry? By way of apology for keeping you waiting earlier, I shall detail every one now. What?
Oh, how fascinating.
It all began 15 years ago. I was... And that more or less sums up my feelings on the matter, in the simplest of terms, of course. Essentially, to formally establish a forensic investigation division within Scotland Yard. That is my mission. Oh, right, yes, that's wonderful. Exactly. Wonderful is precisely what it will be. Iris isn't paying attention at all. She's got her nose in another book now.
How is it over? Did you learn anything useful?
I actually drifted off for the most part. He's surprisingly ardent about forensic science. Sorry. I actually came here today to ask for your permission. Go on. 6 months ago, my right to work in court as a lawyer was revoked, and I was told to spend my time studying. Obviously, I'm very sorry for what happened. But the thing is, it made me understand what it really means to defend somebody under the rules of a foreign justice system, and I desperately want to have another go. Please, permit me to enter the courtroom again. Mr. Naruto. Yes? Here it comes. I'm sure you haven't forgotten your position here, have you? At best, you are a substitute for your compatriot. This was never your intended role. Well, that's true. The Japanese government actually sent my best friend on this study tour, not me. It should have been Kazuma. He was so determined to bring change to our own justice system at home. That was his calling. If that tragic accident hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here in this office now. Mr. Asugi was my best friend, you see. That's why I can't leave it unfinished. I have to fulfill his calling for him. His calling, you say? Has it never occurred to you that perhaps you know nothing of his true calling? Sorry? The mission with which that young law student was charged. What do you suppose it really was? What do you mean? Mission? He's not making any sense. Never mind. I've read all the reports you've submitted over the past 6 months. It's clear to me that you regret your actions and have been studiously obeying your revised instructions. Do you mean? As of this moment, I reinstate your license to practice law here in Great Britain.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful news, Renaud.
In fact, I believe I have the perfect case to mark your comeback. A curious affair. You'll consider it, I hope. Of course. Please, tell me more. You described it as a curious affair. Yes, that's right. I believe it was reported in the press. Are you aware that there was a serious accident at the Great Exhibition yesterday? Oh, no.
Yes, I read about it. A professor from Germany tried to carry out a crazy experiment. Let me see. How was it described? Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, I think.
Instantaneous kinesis is in moving things with a click of the fingers?
That's right. It's just what my herbal blends need. A dash of devil may care.
Whatever the serious accident was exactly, it's clearly captured Iris's imagination. It's an unfortunate business. A large explosion engulfed the public experimentation stage and a man lost his life. A certain Mr. Odie Asman. an investor, and a well-known figure in society. A large explosion.
A man died?
The man responsible for the experiment was Professor Albert Harebrain. He was detained immediately after the incident and is due to appear in court tomorrow on the charge of murder. What? Murder? If you intend to take on his defense, you should hurry to meet with him at the prison. There's very little time left for you to carry out any kind of investigation. The Great Exhibition, a scientific experiment gone wrong, and murder. I feel out of my depth before I've even started. Still,
we should go to the prison straight away then, and try to meet with this German professor, don't you think?
Definitely. Ah, yes. One more thing about the case. There's a connection with our mutual acquaintance, the Reaper. Oh, with Lord Van Zieks? How? Oh, that reminds me, have you seen this? The reports of the overwhelming success of the Great Exhibition, of course. No, not that. The story on the back page. What story? The Reaper attacked. Ah, that. You've enjoyed some victories in court against my #1 prosecutor, have you not?
Poor Mr. Reaper. What happened to him? He wasn't killed, was he?
There's no need for concern. Lord Van Zieks would not be so easily dispatched, I assure you. Can you tell us what happened? I'd really love to know. Very well. If it interests you. It does, strangely. Fortunately, Lord Van Zieks emerged from the attack unscathed. Street ruffians are no match for that man. He's a very capable fighter. But that's incredible. They were armed with guns. Why was he attacked, though? Do we know? It's related to events that occurred a month ago. A leader of one of the capital's criminal organizations was indicted and prosecuted by Van Zieks. But the man was acquitted. I've no doubt large sums of money were involved behind the scenes. Large sums of money. A deplorable situation. Members of the jury were bribed, it seems. However, despite winning his freedom, the man in question met a dramatic end yesterday. But you're not suggesting that was the work of the Reaper, surely? The victim's henchmen certainly seemed to think so. He was a man by the name of Asman, Mr. Odie Asman. Did you say Asman?
That's the man who died in the big explosion at the Great Exhibition.
Yes, known publicly as an investor, but in reality, the head of a significant criminal organization. Unbelievable. I wonder, could I ask you something, Lord Strongheart? Try me. Why do you use Lord Van Zieks as a prosecutor? All the criminals who manage to get off in court then meet with mysterious ends outside the courtroom. And fearful of that fate, they seek to strike at Lord Van Zieks first. I know there's no evidence that he actually is the Reaper in that sense, but still, something's clearly going on here. I have Van Zieks work for the prosecution service for 2 reasons. Firstly, the man is the best prosecutor in the capital, bar none. And secondly, any deaths of criminals that have occurred outside the courtroom following his trials are nothing to do with him. But that doesn't make sense. How can you explain the way so many have died, if not by someone's hand? Van Zieks may have earned himself the moniker of the Reaper, but he is no killer. So he will continue to prosecute on behalf of the Crown. Unless he wishes otherwise, of course. Well, I must be leaving for my next engagement. I'm already 11 hours and 16 minutes late. My colleagues may be starting to fidget. 11 hours late? That's quite something. That meeting had already started when I arrived back here for this engagement with you. So lateness was inevitable. Time stops for no man. I'm sure it stopped for me during those 12 solid arguments and 223 reasons. Oh, yes, where would I find Lord Van Zieks now? I would assume he's at his office. Right, I'll go and ask him about the attack in person. I want to get this straight from the horse's mouth. Away with you now. I'm leaving Professor Halbrane's defense entirely in your hands. Of course, yes. Thank you very much, my lord. What a fun place. Ooh, I'd love to strip that big clock apart, you know. God, I love Iris. Iris is great.
This is where your client is it? Let's go.
22nd of October, Prosecutor's Office.
Oh, so this is the legendary Reaper's office.
Yes, it appears so.
Puh, it sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it? What an amazingly deathly atmosphere.
Oh, is that... The hooded figure was so still I hadn't noticed his or her presence. I wonder who it is. What are you doing here? Ah! He's as unwelcoming as I thought he'd be. Actually, maybe even more so. Oh, I'm glad to see you're well. I am. So, who's the person over by the wall being punished for something or other? No punishment is taking place here. Oh. That's my apprentice. And he's sitting there of his own free will. I didn't know you had an apprentice. It must be the same person who was pictured in the newspaper. He's very able in combat. A requisite skill for anyone under my tutelage. I'm referring to the attack on the Reaper that was reported in the papers. The Reaper? I'd be interested to know the Reaper's true identity myself. Assuming, that is, such a fabled fiend genuinely inhabits our great courtrooms. Lord Strongheart said the assault last night was some sort of revenge attack? True. Carried out by henchmen of Odi Asmon's criminal organization. The investigation meant the arrests were imminent. Presumably some hoped to kill me before that happened. Odi Asmon. He's always masqueraded as one of London's most powerful financiers. A global investor. But his enormous wealth came to him by underhand means via his criminal activities.
And he used that money to buy himself a verdict of not guilty when he found himself in court, didn't he? Being prosecuted by you, Mr. Reaper.
But the man got his comeuppance in the end. Yesterday, in fact, in extraordinary circumstances, it was a most unusual cause of death. I know about that. It was super high voltage instantaneous kinesis gone wrong. Mr. Asmon died when the demonstration on the public experimentation stage ended in an enormous explosion. Correct. And you think I have some kind of divine ability to cause an accident like that to happen, do you? Well, No, that does seem a little far-fetched. If this man really is the fabled Reaper, then he has to be innocent of this particular death, at least.
It's strange how this has worked out, isn't it, Bruno? I mean, what with you taking on the Professor's defense for the trial tomorrow?
What? You're going to be defending him? Oh yes, that's right, though I barely know the man's name yet, to be honest. Albert. Albert Harebrain. That's right. Do you know him by any chance? Of course. He's a contemporary of mine. We were at university together. You're...
What? What?
I'd understood that Professor Harebrain was from Germany, though. Harebrain is from a respectable British family. After graduating from the University of London, he moved to Germany to carry out research, that's all. So, you were students together? I was in the Faculty of Law, of course. And he in science, so our paths rarely crossed. But curiously, we got along, though I've not met him since my university days. I certainly didn't expect our next encounter to take this form. And with you, of all people, representing him. Ugh, only if I make it out of this office alive. He's actually been charged with murder, it seems. Yes, I know. Because the prosecution will be handled by me. By you? But you made it sound as if you and the professor had been friends. We are friends, it's true. Then why would you do this?
If the Reaper is the prosecutor, there's nothing anyone can do to save him. He's doomed.
What's Lord Van Ziek's thinking? What do you mean by what you said before? If you'd like to know the Reaper's true identity, does that mean I'm a crown prosecutor and a mortal like any other? I'm no demigod.
But they've all died, haven't they? The people you've prosecuted, I mean. Whether or not the trial ended in a conviction or an acquittal.
Those I prosecute are the vilest wretches of our society. People who, without question, deserve to be found guilty. The world is a better place without them. But that's not true of Mr. Natsume, for example. He wasn't a vile wretch at all.
Nor was Ginny. In fact, she's ever so hard-working now.
I can't deny that since I encountered you, things have taken a turn. But the point is this. If any of those vile wretches that escaped justice subsequently died in mysterious circumstances, it was at the hand of their own kind. It's not my work. Lord Strongheart said the same. He believes you're not involved in any way.
But you were attacked by those ruffians because they believe it's true.
The fact is, since people started to call me the Reaper of the Barely, the number of serious crimes in the capital has dropped substantially. Oh, it would appear that even the most hardened criminals can be made fearful for their lives. Do you mean to say... I mean to say that if my pseudonym serves a useful purpose, I adopt it gladly and with honor. But it's putting you in danger. You could be killed. If that is my fate, let God decide. Lord Van Zieks. Lord Van Zieks, about the article in this paper. Ah, yes. It seems there was a reporter nearby when that little skirmish took place. I had no idea I'd been photographed. It was careless of me.
It looks as though it was taken after the people who attacked you had run away, though.
Rest assured, the police have already apprehended every last one of them. But there's someone else fighting alongside you, it seems. And I think it's the same man who's sitting over there as we speak, isn't it? As I mentioned already, he's my apprentice. But perhaps you could tell us a little more about him. He's in my tutelage to become a prosecutor. So you could say he's my apprentice, I suppose.
Ah, like you are to Hurley then, Bruno.
I don't remember taking an apprenticeship with a great detective. Yeah, I'd think of that more as your role with Hurley, Iris. He's currently compiling a report about last night's attack. It looks like he's wearing some kind of mask. On Lord Strongheart's orders. Nobody knows the man's face, or indeed his identity. But why would you agree to take on such a clearly suspicious individual? Lord Strongheart's orders again. He's not one for meaningless follies. There will be a good reason for his actions. I hope you're right. Ah! The task is complete. Good. In that case, you can collate all the briefs. Collate? Call it? I don't know. Nice to meet you? Back to work again. That was really strange, though. I've never met the man before. I didn't even know he existed, and yet somehow it didn't feel like our first encounter. Don't bother trying to converse with him. He says nothing to anybody from outside this office. Lord Strongheart has strictly forbidden it. Oh, I see. Why are you so interested in my apprentice anyway? Oh, no, I mean... Sorry, I didn't mean to... The way he stood there so casually. Yeah. The way he stood there so casually, yet with that flawless posture. It couldn't be. Ah, yes, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. Oh, what's that? That Nipponese man. Is he faring well? Sorry? The one arrested twice in succession 6 months ago, with the stoop and the mustache and the jitters. Oh, Mr. Natsume, you mean?
I'm not sure he'd be very pleased to find out you identified him from that list, from that list, Bruno.
He's fine, thank you. In fact, I received a letter from him by international post only the other day. I see. Well, I think we can end our discussion there, don't you? There's little time left before tomorrow's trial. I advise you to spend it investigating the case. Yes, thank you for the advice, and for the conversation. I can't believe he's asking after Saseki-san, after a Nipponese. I'm not sure whether to feel happy about that or worried.
I never imagined that Mr. Reaper would be friends with a mad scientist, did you? That's a turner for the books.
A mad scientist? Ah, you mean Professor Harebrine.
Yes.
Yes, it might be worth quizzing the professor about his relationship with Lord Van Zieks, I think. I know you've seen this around my arm before, but what is it exactly? It's the mark of a defense lawyer, in Japan at least. And what's your reason for showing it to a British prosecutor? Oh, well, I don't know, really. I can understand, at least. There's merit in reminding yourself of who helped you become what you are today. Oh. But that's a personal matter. Something you may want to keep close at all times, not something to flaunt. No, I suppose not. Thank you for understanding, though. Huh. So that cross there, that's what he was touching when he was talking about that. Interesting. Warden said cell 11. That's this one.
Oh, there's someone curled up in a ball in the back corner. Look.
What's his name again? Professor Albert Harebrain, wasn't it? Excuse me, Professor Harebrain. Who are you? I'm Reinstated, not defense law. A lawyer? Ah, was it something I said? A lawyer, you say? Would you be here about the experiment? Are you going to defend my hypothesis? Your hypothesis? Sorry, I don't... Yesterday's demonstration! That demonstration was... That magnificent demonstration was... It was an out-and-out success by anyone's calculations. But despite that, no one listens. No lawyer believes in this science. When it's explained, they all leave at high velocity. Now's probably not a good time to mention that your zeal made my concentration leave for a while too. You mentioned the demonstration yesterday.
The papers have called it a spectacular failure. After all, the man died in the explosion, didn't he?
Arrgh! Yes, you could interpret the results that way if you really wanted to. Well, I suppose in the strictest sense, the experiment was a failure, but at the same time, it was a great success. You've lost me.
I saw it with my own eyes, right there in front of me. Mr. Asman was spontaneously disassembled.
Until then, everything was going exactly as my calculations had predicted. At that point, he should have been beamed to the crystal power by instantaneous kinesis. However, the machine exploded and Mr. Asman in fact perished. Yes, I can't deny that part of the experiment was a failure. So what you're really saying is the large explosion that killed Mr. Asman was an accident, correct?
But the bigwigs had you arrested on suspicion of murder.
I was responsible for a man's death. That is the immutable truth. And for that, I wish to be punished at once. But murder? Never in a million years. It was an accident, simply an accident. I see.
Hurley and I were talking this morning, you know. He said the situation would change completely depending on whether it was treated as an accident or murder.
How exactly?
Well, if it really was an accident, then the professor's machine would be kept in protective custody.
On what grounds? Yes! It's newly established here in Britain. The Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. That one passed me by.
But if this case is treated as murder, then they'll say my machine...
Then they'll say my machine was the murder weapon, and they'll be able to pour over it as much as they like. If they examine it in detail, they'll find out how it's made, and then they'll be able to copy my idea. My precious hypothesis will be stolen. The machine must be protected from that at all costs. That's why it's imperative this whole incident is shown to have been an accident in tomorrow's trial. I see now. So, in short, there was a terrible accident at the Great Exhibition Showground yesterday. Yes, or rather, no, the devil is in the details. Strictly speaking, there was a terrible explosion. Sounds the same to me.
You were demonstrating super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, weren't you? How fascinating!
Humans, like all matter, are made up of particles that are held together by electrical bonds. So it must be possible, using sufficiently high voltage, to break those bonds and beam the particles through space. Hold on, I am gonna...
To
So it must be possible using a sufficiently high voltage to break those bonds and beam the particles through space. That's it in a nutshell. That's my idea, you see. That's my amazing hypothesis. Gosh, that's unimaginably high-level science. Oh, but dare to imagine it! Dare to dream of such incredible technology! Just think, one moment I could be here in this cell, and the next I could be at the Great Exhibition again. Well, yes, that would be incredible. And the next, in the mere blink of an eye, I could be at a great Parisian theater, say. Possibilities are endless. The whole of our vast planet would be within reach. So no more hiding in wardrobes or rocky seas for 50 days?
I don't really see it like that.
What do you mean, Iris?
Well, if you could travel anywhere in the world instantly, the planet wouldn't really seem vast anymore, would it? I think it would feel like it had shrunk.
My word, that's exactly right. What are the implications? What does this mean?
Oops, that's got Professor Bunnybrain really worried by the look of it.
Clearly, this is yet another case of just because you can doesn't mean you should, I suppose. The point is, my calculations are flawless. The science works. But without a practical demonstration, it means nothing. And that's always the fly in the ointment.
Because practical demonstrations cost a lot of money. Money that young scientists like you don't have.
That's exactly it, yes!
Hurley's always complaining about it. He says the government should invest more in science.
Well, anyway, I bumped into him at the right time. I met the well-known investor, Mr. Asman. The victim who died in yesterday's terrible accident, you mean? The full name of the man... oh, sorry. Wrong person. The full name of the man who died in yesterday's accident was Mr. Odi Asman, wasn't it? What exactly was your relationship with the man? He first visited me in my laboratory in Germany over a year ago now. He said he wanted to invest in my immaculate hypothesis. I thanked my lucky stars. I see. So you hadn't really known each other until then.
Money for scientific research? I'm so envious.
As far as I was concerned, the man was an angel. Oh, really? An archangel, even. He was prepared to fund a practical demonstration of my hypothesis for presentation at the Great Exhibition. And if that went well, I could expect additional financial support for my research from the British government. Ha! Ha! Miss Asman provided me with money and an exceptional engineer. He produced a machine to my precise specifications.
But then your dreams were blown to dust in one enormous explosion.
As you can see, I owed everything to Mr. Asman. I would never, ever have thought of taking the man's life. Well, he seems genuine enough. I don't think he's lying. I understand Lord Van Zieks is a friend of yours from your university days. Yes, that's right. I was studying law whilst I was studying science. What was he like back then? A good question. Unassuming, gentlemanly, an all-around nice fellow, really. Sorry, I think you misheard me. I'm talking about the cold-hearted, merciless prosecutor, Barrack Van Zieks. What was he like when he was at university?
Talk about a leading question, Rudo.
As I said, an unassuming and extremely pleasant gentleman. After all, he is the little darling of the Van Zieks family, with all its great aristocratic origins.
I didn't realize he had quite such noble blood.
Little darling. It was a bit of a shock when I came back to Britain and learned what he'd become. The Reaper of the Belly, no less. Yes, that's right. I did hear, though, that there was a very big event in his life that completely changed him after graduation. Really? What sort of event? Ah! I'm sorry. But I don't know anymore. I wasn't in the country at the time. I was in Germany already. Oh, yes, of course. If he's heard all about the Reaper, I really don't have the heart to tell him that Lord Van Zeeks will be the prosecutor in court tomorrow. So, Professor, let me just make absolutely sure I've understood you properly. The huge explosion that occurred yesterday, that was an accident, you're saying. You had no intent to harm the victim, who was in fact the sole investor in your work. Is that correct? As correct as 2 squared is 4, I swear it! Yes, it's true that the man embarrassed the machine of my invention. So I know that I'm far from blameless in all this. But still, I would never use my discoveries, my inventions, to take a person's life, not in a centillion years. I'm a man of science, it's all I know. You have to believe me, please. Do you believe me? Do you believe in my hypothesis? Science is the pursuit of truth, you know. I've always believed that, all my life. I'm afraid I don't know much about science, or your theories. But I do believe you, and I will fight to prove your innocence with all my might. I'm a man of the law, it's all I know. You have to believe me, please. When I went to live in Germany after I graduated, I learned something very important. Nationality, class, lineage, none of that matters. As long as you try your hardest, you can achieve anything. Thank you for that, Professor. And thank you in advance for defending me tomorrow in court.
All right, Bruno. It's time. Time to visit the Great Exhibition.
Sorry.
Well, that's where the incident happened, isn't it?
Yes, I suppose that's true. Time to investigate at last. So, I know that usually I'd stream for about another half hour. Or maybe 20 minutes. But honestly, I'm getting really low energy. I'm just exhausted today. So I'm going to wrap up there for today. This was a lot of fun, though. A lot of great characters and everything happening. This is a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to what comes next. And I will see you guys at the next one. Oh, actually, hold on. Actually, what's really exciting, actually, is what's happening. So Saturday, right? I'm gonna be starting Loom. For my next point and click game on Saturday, and then on Sunday, which is of course New Year's Day, I am going to be streaming with the wonderful Thrifty Fangirl, and we're going to be doing a collaboration, playing Portal 2 co-op, and we're going to be raising money for charity. So I'm really excited about that, and I hope to see you there. Thank you so much to everyone who wasn't here, and I'll see you on Saturday and hopefully Sunday.